Hey guys, it's Nemo, and we're just having a look at something on the World of Warships development blog, which has got me really excited. This is the Royal Navy destroyer line. So, I love destroyers. I DD main. I just unlocked the Yu Yang, which is a fantastic destroyer. This has really got me excited. This has got me more excited than the release of United States Navy light cruisers. So we're going to go through them just to see what they're like, just to give you my thoughts on them, and yeah, it's got me excited. It's good. Okay, so first we have the Medea, which is a tier 2 little destroyer. It has 8,700 hit points. It has 3 times 102 guns, firing at 8.8 kilometers. You're not really going to be 8.8 kilometers is pretty close. It's good. They'll probably be floaty shells. If you have a look at Vampire, for example, the Commonwealth destroyer, it has that, you fire those shells off and you hit satellites. That's the kind of things that it does. I'm wondering if they'll be the same sort of shell velocity with the Royal Navy destroyers, because if you have a look at the Royal Navy cruisers and then the Perth and the Vampire, even though the Perth and the Vampire are Australian ships, they're in the Commonwealth premiums, they still have that floatiness that the Royal Navy shells have. So I'm wondering if they'll operate the same way. So Medea, she has 53 knot speed for her torpedoes. She has 6 kilometer torpedo range, which is pretty good. They reload every 53 seconds. At tier 2, what about the guns? The guns fire at, let me have a look. Doesn't tell me. Reload time 5 seconds. There you go, 5 seconds. So 5 seconds reload time for the guns. If you ran 19 point captain, because a lot of people like to play tier 2s, 3 and 4 exclusively because of the protected matchmaking. So if you had a 19 point captain and you put basic firing training on there, you could get that down to maybe 4.5, 4 seconds, which is pretty good. And it says, instead of choosing between wide and narrow spreads, captains can choose to fire off individual torpedoes. So that's the same with all the Royal Navy cruisers and destroyers by the looks of it. If you have a look at the Gallant as well, which is the premium tier 6 Royal Navy destroyer, she can fire off that single spread, as can the Commonwealth cruisers and destroyers. Max speed 32 knots. So she's relatively quick for a tier 2 destroyer, which is good. And then you get consumables, damage control, smoke generator, and engine boost, which is standard stuff. So not bad. All stats are listed without crew and upgrade modifiers, but with the best available modules. Now this is on every single destroyer. It has this little blurb down here for all of the destroyers in the Royal Navy line. So what it is the best available modules are, say, your A hull, B hull. So you'd have your B hull, and then you've got your firing upgrade that you can purchase. You can purchase torpedoes before you then get enough experience to go to the next tier. That's what those are. So it's listed without your crew upgrades, which are your captain skills, and it's listed without your upgrade modifiers, which are the consumables. So where you've got the consumables slot, and you can go to the modules slot as well. So it's without those. Okay, so let's see if I'm going the right way. Tier 3, we have the Valkyrie. So she's got 9,500 hit points. She has 4 times 102mm guns. They fire at 10.7 kilometers. Fire chance is 6%. Reload time 5 seconds again. If you had a 19 point captain for her, she's very vampire-ish, so I wonder if she'll play like the Vampire. 5 seconds again, you can get that down with the right captain skills. She has a 6 kilometer torpedo range with 53 knots, so they're relatively slow, but you can ripple fire them, which is good. That makes them a bit more effective. 2x2. So you actually have, at the back here, you've got the 4 instead of the 1 triple launcher that the Vampire has. Now if you have a look at the back there, where the launcher is, I'm assuming she's not going to have very good torpedo firing arcs because the launchers won't be able to get past these here and those there. So I would think by the setup of the ship you're going to have a very narrow torpedo window, so you're going to have to show a lot of broadside to fire these off. Let's have a look. She's got a reload time of 41 seconds on the torpedo, so you can use them pretty effectively if you put the torpedo reload booster on your captain skill, the torpedo reload skill I think it is. You can get that down even further, maybe 35 seconds, something like that. That'll be pretty quick. 34 knots, it's pretty quick for tier 3. The surface detectability is 6.3. Again, if you use a 10-point captain at least with the concealment skill, you can drop that down to maybe 5.9, maybe 5.8. And gunfire and smoke, 2 kilometers. Again, the consumables, damage control, smoke generator, and the engine boost. The smoke radius for these are 600 meters, so it's a big smoke cloud, which is good. Doesn't bloom for very long, but it's a big cloud. The Wakeful at tier 4, we've got 10,000 hit points, starting to get a little bit better with our hit points here. She has 4 times 120mm guns, so if you use the basic firing training, you can actually get her to fire faster. Anything under the 132mm, I believe, 152 guns can't fire any faster with the BFT. It's got to be about 135, I think 135 and under, and they can fire faster. So she has that. Her firing range is 10.8. At 10.8, if it's the shells that are floaty with the British destroyers, you might not hit much. You want to be a little bit closer. We have a reload time of 8 seconds on the gun. So 8 seconds on a destroyer. The Clemson has almost 8 seconds on her firing power, and she fires pretty slow. But she also fires with the upgraded guns. She gets 6 on a broadside, 6 guns on a broadside instead of 4, which is heavier. So it makes it more powerful. Let's have a look. We have see the velocity is slow. The torpedo tubes, you've got 2 times 3. That's 6 kilometer torps, so your torps are better than the Clemson. They fire 500 meters further, which is good. Speed 53 knots, so they're still pretty slow. Reload time 62 seconds. Again, you can get all this down with the right captain skills. Maximum speed 35 knots, so she does relatively good speed for tier 4. Rudder shift time 2.5 seconds, that's pretty good. 6.3 kilometer surface detectability. Again, with a 10-point captain, you'll get that down to probably 5.8. And camos. Always remember to put camos on your ships, especially your destroyers, because it helps lower your detectability. Again, damage control party, smoke generator, and engine boost. So the same thing with these British destroyers, Royal Navy destroyers. The torpedo arcs I don't think are going to be very good. A caster at tier 5. Now, if you remember the Operation Dunkirk and you played the Anthony, this looks very Anthony-ish, I guess you could call it. We have 11,200 hit points. Sorry, we have 4 times 120mm guns, so BFT will buff the firing from 5 seconds to maybe 4.5, maybe 4, probably 4.5 seconds firing. 11.1 kilometers. 11.1 kilometers with floaty shells is, yeah, you could make it work. You'll make it work. Anyone who plays it will make it work. Anyone who loves destroyers will make these work. Torpedo tubes, we've got the 2 times 4 now, which is good. Now we're getting 8 torpedoes. The thing is though, is that there's still only 6 kilometers, so you have a surface detection of 6.8. Now remember, this doesn't include captain skills, so you can get that down. And then camos, probably 6.2, maybe. Maximum speed 35 knots. We still have the ripple fire. Our torpedoes reload at 95 seconds. Again, you can get that down lower with the right captain skills. And consumables, we have the damage control, smoke generator, and engine boost. So at 35 knots with an engine boost, if you ran the superintendent skill, you get 4. Superintendent skill plus the premium consumables, you get 4 engine boosts. So that's pretty good. Running around fast, that's what you want to do. Tier 5 with 6 kilometer torpedoes, and at 59 kilometers, it's going to be a bit tough. Let's head on to the next one. Now we have the Icarus at tier 6. As long as you don't fly too close to the sun, you should be alright. Okay, so we've still got the 11,200 points of hit points. We have 4 times 120 millimeter guns with a 5-second reload, with an 8% chance of causing fire, which is pretty good. 8% for a destroyer is pretty good. Reload time 5 seconds. You can get that down with the captain skills. Then you have the torpedoes. The torpedo tubes, you got 2 times 5, so you got 10 this time. But again, your firing arcs aren't going to be very good. If you've played the Gallant, you will know that your torpedo arcs aren't very good at all. You have to turn a lot of broadside. They're still at 6 kilometer range, so you've got shorter torpedoes even than the Farragut. Farragut has 6.4. They're still slow at 59 kilometers. They reload 59 knots, sorry. They reload at 133 seconds, so they're reloading a little bit slower now as we're getting up there. Maximum speed 35.5 knots. I'd recommend running speed flags on all these. Rudder shift time 3 seconds, that's workable. Yep, surface detectability 6.8. Again, you put the right captain skill on there and you can get it, and a camo, you'll get it down to about 6.2, possibly even 6.1. 6.1 at tier 6 is better than the Farragut, so they might be good cap controllers. You might be able to cap control well. What you're going to want to do by the looks of these early destroyers is wait until an enemy destroyer smokes up, and if you have the RPF skill, it'll help you out a lot. You rush in then within your torpedo range to where you think he's going to be in the smoke, and then you launch your shots into the smoke. Now the thing that changes here in tier 6 is that you have a damage control party, you have a smoke generator, and then you get to use either the engine boost or the hydroacoustic. Now the torpedo detection is 1.8 kilometers and your ship detection is 2.73 on the hydro. It does run for 180 seconds, so it's pretty good. 120 seconds cooldown for the hydroacoustic search. So it runs for a while, which is what you want. But at 1.8 detection, you're better off using there's a tier 3 skill, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the spotting the it's a torpedo acquisition pretty much, and you can spot the torpedoes from, I believe it's 20% further range. You're better off using those 3 captain skills than using the hydroacoustic here. I think at 35.5 knots tier 6, remember you will face tier 8 destroyers, which will mean the likes of the Kiev, for example, and the Kiev is an absolute speed demon and it will destroy you. So think about that when you're setting up your ship. You remember that, okay, tier 6, I'm going to face tier 8s. How am I going to counter tier 8 ships? So I need to, the hydroacoustic surge isn't going to be good enough for me, so I'm going to run the engine boost. That's what I would run. As a destroyer player, I'd run the engine boost. You've only got the short torpedo range, so you're more going to want to set up an ambush. You haven't got very many guns, you've only got 4. Even the Farragut has more at 5, and you can turn that into a really, really good gunboat. So let's go on. We've got the tier 7 Jarvis. Now we have 14,300 hit points. She's looking very Gadjamata. I'm not sure if it's the same class as the Gadjamata, but again, the torpedoes, you're not going to have a very good torpedo spread here at all. As you can see, you've got to turn a lot of broadside to fire off these torpedoes, and it's going to be very narrow spread. It might be 10 torpedoes, but you've got to weigh up whether you're going to turn your ship fully to the broadside or not. Again, you're probably going to ambush. You can ripple fire these, so you don't have to. It'll either be that really wide spread, because for some reason the Royal Navy can't actually fire the narrow spread. They can only fire the really wide spread or the ripple fire. Ripple firing, I reckon, is great, because then I can use one tube and fire it how I want, and then I can fire off the second tube after the enemy destroyer has moved, and you can fire them, as I said, in whatever way you want. One really good tactic that I like to use with my Gallant is I'll fire one wide spread, and then I'll ripple fire the second in between the wide spread. So it sort of creates like, it's like when the cargo drops on you, the aircraft carrier cargo at tier 7, and it's got the 3 at the front, the 3 torpedoes in the front and then the 2 at the back. You can create that sort of torpedo formation, and it can be quite devastating because it's easy to turn through a line, but if you're trying to turn through a W or a V or something like that, it makes it a lot harder to get through the torpedoes. So that's one thing that you could do. Now, I know they're only 6 kilometers, but if you're near a smoke at tier 7 and you fire off a rippled fire shot like that, it can be devastating, absolutely devastating. So we've got 3 times 220mm guns. So as you can see, the same setup as the Gadjamata. We fire out to 12.1 kilometers. We have an 8% fire chance, which is really good. We have a reload time of 5 seconds. Now again, with the right captain skills, you can get that down. Torpedo tubes, 2 times 5, so we got 10. They're only 6 kilometers with the same 59 knots, so they're very slow. They reload at 120 seconds. With the right captain skills, you can get that down as well. Maximum speed, 36 knots. So 36 knots is okay with tier 7s, but then remember, you're going to be playing against tier 9s. So things like a Fletcher, it'll run you down pretty well, pretty easily. Turning circle, 590 meters with a 3.5 second rudder shift. That's workable, again, workable. Surface detectability though is 7.2. Now you can't get a concealment module with tier 7 ships. It's not until tier 8 that you can run the concealment module. So you're going to be wanting to run a 10-point captain with his concealment expert plus camos. Camos bring it down. You might be able to get it down to maybe around 6.4. Not sure. So the Gadjamata is 6.1. That's at tier 7. That's probably one of the better ones. The Mars, you will outspot the Mars. The Mars has, I believe it's 6.8 is what it can get down to. So the Mars will still be a difficult ship to play in this tier. But yeah, you'll be able to bring it down, which is good. It'll be a bit more competitive, but I still think that the Gadjamata is the tier 7 destroyer, hybrid destroyer of choice. So we have our damage control, we have our smoke generator, and again we get the choice between engine boost and hydroacoustic, but hydroacoustic only runs a 1.89 kilometer detection on torpedoes and 2.73 kilometers for ships. Now again, I don't think it's viable because of the short range. if you're out in front spotting torpedoes anyway, you don't need the hydro, because your job's to spot them for your ships behind your cruisers and battleships so that they don't get hit. And if you get your rudder shift down, which is already 3.5 seconds, you can either use a rudder shift mod, or I always use the engine acceleration mod. I think that's a lot better, because then you can move off faster. You can avoid torpedoes pretty well. Just don't sit broadside in a capture circle where you know that someone is going to torpedo you. Again, you've got your radius of 600 meters with the smoke, so it's pretty good. It just doesn't bloom for very long. Now we have tier 8, and this is where I think it's going to start getting a little bit better, or it should. You hope it does at tier 8. So you've got 15,900 hit points. You've got a main battery of 3 times 120, so it's the same sort of main battery, but this fires at 6 seconds. With the right captain skills, you can get that down. You'll probably be firing off at 5 seconds. You have a 9% chance to cause fire at 12.2 kilometers. Again, remember, it's floaty shells, and these ones are even, if you have a look at the velocity of these are 774 millimeters. Now make sure you always check your ships with 774 meters per second for the HE, and the AP is 774 as well. There are some ships and cruisers, even battleships, that have different velocity values for their HE and AP, which means that they fire those shells differently, so you have to adjust your lead on your ship, on your gun, sorry. Torpedo tubes, we've got 2 times 4, so we've got 8 torpedoes with the maximum damage of 15,867 for each torpedo. They're 8-kilometer torpedoes now, so now we're starting to actually get somewhere with our torpedoes, and they're 61 knots, so they're 2 kilometers, faster. Then that's 2 knots faster, than everything else that we've been using before, and the reload time is 96 seconds, so it's pretty fast on the reload. You know, a minute and a half there, just over a minute and a half. You can get that down with the right captain skills. And then we have a maximum speed of 36 knots. So competitive, but then you got to remember you're facing tier 10s. If you come up against a Khabarovsk, even a Shimakaze can run you down, though the Shimakaze is not going to want to gunboat you. Rudder shift time's 3.8. It's workable, but it's getting on the high end. You have a 7-kilometer surface detectability, but now you can run your concealment captain skill, you can run your camo, and you can put on your concealment module now. So that means that you can get the ship down to 5.8, maybe less, 5.4 maybe. So you're going to be pretty competitive. You're getting down really, really low, which is good. Then we have our damage control, smoke generator, and again, engine boost and hydroacoustic. Now, hydroacoustic 2.13 kilometers, 3.12 kilometers for ship detection. Again, I don't think that it's going to be viable for usage in this tier, especially how short it is. It's just not long enough. I mean, 2.13 kilometers does give you a bit more time to spot the torpedoes, but if you're playing the ship right in the first place, you're not sitting broadside in a capture point, you're not sitting broadside in a torpedo alley, you're anticipating the fact that there could be a destroyer around. If you're running RPF or radio location as it is now, then you know what's closest to you. So you shouldn't really need to worry about torpedo detection really hitting you that hard. Again, my qualm with the ship is the torpedo firing angles. You're not going to be able to fire these very well at all. You're going to have to be broadside to fire them, which is really a nuisance, especially when I'm telling you don't sit broadside in a cap, and make sure that you're not sitting in a bad torpedo alley, and the only way to fire your torpedoes into a torpedo alley is to turn totally broadside. But we're starting to look good. I think the tier 8 is starting to look pretty good. We can get the gun reload time down. The shell velocity again is the same as the tier 7, so it's relatively slow. It will be a bit floaty. 9% fire chance though, that's pretty good. That's good for a destroyer. Our torpedoes again, as I said, 8 kilometers, and we can get down to Benson style detectability with 8 kilometers. We can use that. Just remember there's a lot of radar at the moment, so when you spot radars, just remember their range. You know, you've got your Cleveland who has 9 kilometer detection, 9.1 kilometer detection with 9 kilometer radar. The Chapayev, I'm not sure. The radar's about 11.5, I think, but it's only short duration, so just be careful of all those. And then remember, you will be facing Moskva and Des Moines a lot. You'll also face the Khabarovsk, the Gearing, the Grozhevoy, so it's not going to be, it won't be too fun. I mean, you'll face the Akazuki as well, and the Akazuki has an easy time against the Gearing and things like that, so got to learn to play smart with these. I think they're more going to be ambush ships. You're going to hit the cap, fire on a destroyer, knock that destroyer out, and then get out of the cap while the radar's going, and then just be a spotter after that. So at 8 kilometer torpedoes, you can actually start spotting and torp spamming, which is sort of what the high tier turns into, unless you're in the Khabarovsk where you're totally sailing around gunning all the time. Most of your destroyers turn into torpedo boats. I mean, I've got my Gearing and my Yu Yang, got the reload down on the torpedoes as best I can with the torpedo booster slot for the modules and my torpedo reload skill for my captain, just to try and get these boats firing the torpedoes as fast as you can, because as I said, with all the radar at the moment, you have to keep as much distance as you can. So if you're going to go in and try and gun things down, have fun with that. Okay, so tier 9. So I had to click double because the tier 9 didn't come up for some reason, but this is the Jutland. This is the tier 9. I think she looks pretty good. Again, the torpedoes aren't going to fire too well, which is annoying. You might have you're going to have more torpedo angle on the front than you are on the back. So you're not going to be able to do a shimakaze sort of thing where you fire almost towards the back and then run away. So we've got 18,400 hit points, which is good. We're getting up there. We have 3 times 214 millimeter guns, so they're smaller than tier 8 at 120. Our firing range is 13.2 kilometers. Now, if you're firing at 13.2 kilometers, you're going to want to sit probably in a smoke, maybe behind an island. But as a destroyer, why you want to sit behind an island, I'm not sure, because these are just going to float. You have 746 meters per second on the velocity, so plus the air drag on top of that, it's just going to slow them right down. So we've got a 3.5 second reload time though. 3.5 second reload time. We're getting Fletcher-esque here. Now the Fletcher, you can get the Fletcher's guns I think down to 2.5 second reload. Something like that. It's awesome. And we get different batteries now. We've got our Hull A battery, which I don't know why they've got that there to tell you that it's 2 times 2 and 1 times 1. So you've got 2 guns that have 2 turrets that have 2 guns, and then one turret will have 1 gun. So that's on your A hull. But the rest of these are for the B hull that you get. Remember I talked about before where it's got the little blurb. It doesn't have it on this one, but anyway, it's got the blurb about the best modules, which is your A hull, B hull, torpedoes, firing range, those sorts of things. So now we've got 2.5 torpedoes, so we get 10 now, and they're at 10 kilometers, which is good. Their speed is 62 knots, their reload time is 120 seconds. You can get that down. You can either run the torpedo reload launcher. Do you get that tier 9 or tier 10? I think that's might only be tier 10. And you can do your right captain skills. And then again, ripple fire, which is really, really good. We have a maximum speed of 34 knots, so we're getting slower. We're actually slow now. For tier 9 and tier 10, 34 knots. Even the gearing is faster than that. And the gearing, as we know, that fat bottom girl's pretty slow. Rudder shift time 4.2 seconds. Now it's becoming a little bit too high. Torpedo dodging at 4.2 seconds. Even gunfire at 4.2 seconds is starting to get a little bit nerve-wracking. Your surface detectability is 7 kilometers, but again, you run the right captain skills, the concealment expert, you run the camo, and you run the consumable, the concealment consumable. You're down maybe 5 point. You're getting close to like something like 5.4 in that area. 2.4 in smoke, so that's pretty good as well. And then slot 1, we have damage control party and the smoke generator, and then again the same sort of thing since about tier 6 is engine boost and hydro. Your hydro is starting to get a little bit better. 3.51 ship detection, but it's still at 3.51 kilometers. If something is going to come that close to you, they don't want to play the game anymore. I mean, they're just feeling suicidal. They're running in. That's ridiculous. The one thing that would be good as a 3.51 kilometer ship detection range would be the fact that you could run that on one side of an island and spot something on the other side. That would be the only thing that I would use it for. Again, I'd take the engine boost, and I think the engine boost is viable, especially at 34 knots. 34 knots, I just don't think it's going to be fast enough. You're going to need to run that. And then tier 10, the daring, again, torpedoes, not very good firing angles. We still have the 746 meters per second on the guns. Couple that with drag and it's going to be slower, especially at 13.8. Don't think you're going to be firing out at 13.8, but she has 20,800 hit points. Now this 19mm armor plating is going to be nerfed, remember. There's talk about them nerfing the destroyer armor plating down to about 13mm, and that will stop battleship AP absolutely wrecking destroyers. Because what they want you to do is, what Wargaming wants you to do, is change from armor piercing to high explosive when firing at a destroyer, just like cruisers do. So that's the other thing I wanted to talk about was, when these come out, IFHE, you won't need to use that against other destroyers. So I'd say save those 4 points. You already have a chance to cause 8% fire with these guns, and you're firing at 2.5 seconds with the right captain skills and a reload mod. You can get this down to about 1.95 seconds. That amount of fire, instead of using IFHE, think about, as you know, Jingles uses this saying all the time, if you throw enough shit at the wall, some of it's going to stick. At 8% fire damage with 1.95 seconds with the right skills and captain skills, you're going to cause fires that way. There might be a whole heap of shatters, but shatters, as you know, cause fires. Don't know why, but they do. So I'd save your IFHE points, and with the torpedoes at 10 kilometers, they are 500 kilometers shorter. 500 kilometers, 500 meters, sorry. Geez, 500 kilometers shorter than the Z52, but they're usable. They're usable. We have 2 times 5, so again we've got the 10. They're 10 kilometers. They're 62 knots. Their reload time is 120 seconds. Again with the right consumables and modules. Right modules and captain skills, you'll get that down a lot. You'll get that down pretty quick. We have a maximum speed of 35 knots. So again, we're not the fastest ship, in tier 10. Rudder shift time 4.6 seconds. See, the rudder shift time at 4.6 seconds here is actually making me think that maybe I should take the rudder shift module on this instead of the engine acceleration module. Not sure. I'll test out a couple of out and see how it goes. Unfortunately, I'm not a super tester, so I'll have to wait until they come out on the public test or something and then have a go at it. We have a surface detection of 7.0 kilometers, so with the right skills, camos, captains, as I've talked about before, you will get this down to about 5.5, possibly 5.4. Well, 5.4 is what the shim is at the moment, so if it's 5.5, you're going to be stealthier than the gearing at 5.9. You will be a lot stealthier than the Z52, which is 6.1. And then there's the Yu-Yang, which is 5.958. So you're going to be the second stealthiest tier 10 destroyer. And you've got these guns that can fire at 2.5 seconds, and if you buff them, 1.95 seconds. You're going to absolutely eat things such as the shimmer. Or if you get the first salvo in, maybe first 2 salvos in on a gearing before he even realizes what's happening, you're going to hit him pretty hard. What else have we got? 2.5 in smoke, which is good. Damage control party for slot 1, smoke generator, again, engine boost, hydroacoustic. Now the hydro is 3.9 for ship detection and 2.61 for torpedo detection. Again, I'm saying that at 35 knots, tier 10 battle, we're going to want to use the engine boost. I just don't think the hydro it's not long enough. It's like the range isn't big enough. Especially if you come up against, if you come against something that's not a Z52, you'll be alright, because then you can use that range to ambush things, you know, the hydroacoustic range to ambush. Whereas a Z52, if you're coming up against a team that has a Z52, your hydro's not viable, because he's got almost a 6 kilometer hydro and it lasts for quite a while. So I would say that the hydroacoustic surge isn't that viable. The engine boost is more viable, especially with our slow speed in tier 10. You want to be able to chase things down, especially destroyers. Otherwise, yeah, other than the not very good hydro and the torpedo firing angles, which don't look very good at all, I'm really excited about this line. I think it's going to be more of a destroyer hunting role. You're not going to really take on, you're not a torpedo boat until you know tier 9, 10 really. You're going to be the screen. You're going to be out in front of your ships, your battleships and cruisers, like you do with any destroyer, but this time your main role is to stop them being spotted by other destroyers. You know, get in there and gunboat. You're going to be more of a gunboat, so you're going to be more like the Pan-Asian line, except it's more of a cross between Pan-Asian and the German DD line. That's what it's sort of built as. You've got the hydro, like the Germans, but it's nowhere near as good as the Germans. You've got the excellent firepower of American destroyers, really, and the Pan-Asians. They fire off very quickly. The thing that makes the Pan-Asians more viable as a gunboat is the fact that they have deep water torps. So when you come up against other destroyers, you've only got your guns to use. Anyway, guys, as I said, I'm pretty excited about Royal Navy destroyers. I think the Royal Navy line should be finished. You know, the era that this game is based, the early 20th century, all the way up to about 1953. I think that's when the Kutuzov was built, or at least came into service. The Royal Navy line was the predominant navy throughout the world. It wasn't until after World War II, where America took over, they need to really finish the Royal Navy line. There's a lot of Royal Navy fanboys out there who would love this line to be finished. Hopefully these destroyers can help it. I think they need to bring in heavy cruisers for the Royal Navy line as well, and definitely the aircraft carriers. Aircraft carriers had a big role in hunting down the Bismarck. So those are my thoughts on the new destroyer line, the Royal Navies. Hope you guys enjoyed it and find anything of this useful, and I can't wait to actually get some gameplay going for you so I can show you my builds, my style of play for these ships. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.